Hello, I'm Norman Swan. There's a condition that will affect almost every Australian family and become the largest cost to the healthcare system. It's dementia in all its forms. That disintegration of thinking and memory that can affect your behaviour and the ability to recognise those closest to you and carry out the tasks of daily living. For every person affected by dementia, there are at least 3 or 4 others involved in their care. And that's not to mention family and friends who watch their loved one become someone they don't recognise. This is the first of a 2-part Tonic series, which explores the latest evidence on dementia, what works, what doesn't work. We'll bust a few myths, and we'll give unique insights which help to deal with the challenges of this condition.
Living with dementia is called the long goodbye, seeing confused looks upon his face and in his eye, and I witness different changes each and every day as the man that I love slowly slips away.
The brain is an amazing organ. It changes light waves into depth, colour and motion. It changes sound waves into something that we understand and derive meaning from. The brain perceives the world and dictates how we will respond. It creates our emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and it stores memories and can retrieve them whole or in part up to decades later. And the brain ages. For around 1 in 3 of us, that aging will include dementia.
We were only just recently married, although we'd known each other for so long. I've known him since I was 15, and we had a very exciting life. Just get in the car and take off for a few days.
Dad used to be full of life of the party, friends with everybody, and then things started to change.
When I met Roy, he was a merchant seaman. He's always been a hard worker, always doing things for other people, and this is where it's become a bit hard.
My mum was a very lively, independent, strong woman, and things started to slip, and that seemed out of character.
My mum was very fit. She used to play tennis a couple of times a week and golf, you know, sometimes twice a week as well, so she was incredibly active, lived on her own, had a huge network of friends.
Dementia is not an inevitable accompaniment of ageing. There are lots of older people who live to very advanced years who never get dementia. Even at the most advanced stages, the majority of people don't have dementia. So if we looked at the population over the age of 85, only 1/3 of people have dementia. So 2/3 don't. So it's not inevitable that people will develop dementia.
It's been about 18 months since we first noticed the symptoms, when we initially noticed it, but we weren't completely sure it was dementia. We just assumed that it was just, day to day with, getting older.
So I think there's a lot of conversation in the community at the moment about forgetfulness and memory problems and dementia. And many of us get concerned when we are regularly forgetting things. So if you're under stress, if you've got a lot on your plate, you are prone to forgetting things. And that's just how our memories tend to work. I've had it explained to me, and I thought it was a really useful idea, that the difference between forgetfulness and dementia, forgetfulness is forgetting which level you parked your car on when you go to the shopping centre. Dementia is completely forgetting that you actually had a car.
Commonly, what happens for people when they do suddenly notice that there's a problem is there's what's called a sentinel event. That's somebody who's had a few memory problems but people have been a bit concerned about, but suddenly they'll forget a major event like a wedding, or they suddenly have forgotten the grandchildren's names, or they've had some obvious mishap when they've gone shopping or they've got lost, and that sentinel event tips people off. So it can be quite difficult because the symptoms early on are often very, very mild and they're very difficult to differentiate.
I noticed the first changes in Leon when we went to New Zealand. Just little things. that were just out of character for him. He got a little bit picky and cranky over a few things. I could not understand them. He got a bit confused and got lost in the hotel we were staying in. And I didn't realise what was going on until later, and then it clicked.
Dementia is variable illness, so it typically has a pattern of being slowly discovered by family members, often not the individual involved, coming to a doctor and then a discussion around some changes that are occurring in a person's ability, many areas of a person's life that are affected. So you see an unfolding in a person's day-to-day living, their executive functioning, if you like, which involves their memory, but it involves complex tasks and processing. So, for example, cooking. Complex cooking may go out the window, whereas the frequent meal that they made every day or once a week every week of their lives, that can be prepared with no problems at all, but giving them a complicated recipe, suddenly a person who is a good cook is no longer able to follow that. Sometimes conversations start to get a little bit circular. We start to hear the same stories being told again, the same questions being asked of me as a patient will try and engage in conversation. I might start to see a person forget some of the things that they'd come in to see me about. I might see them slightly dishevelled in the way that they present when that was not the way that they would have presented previously. So I think the thing about dementia is it's not just memory, it's some subtle changes that evolve over time that we notice with patients.